Amen. Amen. At this time, I invite Sarah Moyer to come forward for our moment of mission. Sarah, I don't know if you want to speak here, if you want to walk around, hold it. Great. We're so glad to have you this morning. Thank you.
I am so grateful to be in your midst this morning. What a joyous celebration of baptism, of St. Patrick, of your new pastor, and a recognition of all of the work that your pastor here has done for you. So thank you for having me here. I am so honored to be here and to speak on behalf of Lutheran Family Services Rocky Mountains. We, as an organization, have been doing refugee resettlement in the United States for 77 years under Lutheran Social Services. So can anybody just answer? Can anybody think of when refugee resettlement first started in our country and maybe what major world problem led to that? Before Vietnam, World War II. So it was the Geneva Conventions where the UN got together and said, no longer will we leave people to suffer at the hands of a dictator. We as solid countries felt so strongly that that was not okay. It was a humanitarian thing. It wasn't a political thing. It was humanitarian, that we as humans believe in what is right and just. So in the United States, we started refugee resettlement about 80 years ago. Lutheran Social Services got into the game about 76 years ago. That definition was expanded as world conflict continued. So Vietnam. During Vietnam, so many people witnessed the displacement of people due to violence and conflict. And in the United States, we changed our understanding of refugees during that conflict. We decided that it shouldn't just include Jewish people, but it should be all people who are affected by war and turmoil, whose lives are at risk, who are certified victims of violence and torture, should not be left to be murdered in their own homelands. In the 1980s, my father had returned from Vietnam. My mother had had a Vietnamese woman live in her home as she was a teenager in Portland, Oregon. And I grew up in a home where my parents said, we will be the hands and feet. We will do the work that we are called by Jesus to do. And when we say, tell me to welcome the stranger, we're going to open our door quite literally. And so I was born into a home with a young Vietnamese man who came over from Vietnam in a boat with his aunt and uncle and his brother. He was 18 when he reached Portland, Oregon. His brother was 16. So what would happen to an 18-year-old who, by the way, his aunt and uncle died on the boat on the way over in violence? So what would happen to a 16-year-old, someone who's a minor? What would happen? Where would they go in our country if they don't have an adult caretaker? Group home, foster care, there's options. What happens with an 18-year-old? The street. Modern times, jail. So my parents were part of a program with IRC, which we have an IRC branch in Missoula, who were on a call list for emergency housing, and they housed numerous families over the course of years, 7 years. And the final person they housed was Tum Tron, 18 years old, a violinist, an aspiring student wanting to go to college, child of a doctor, who left his family with his brother and his aunt and uncle to start a new life. That life was started in my home. I was born with Tum as my uncle. He was only supposed to be there for 2 weeks. My parents didn't tell him there was a time limit, and he didn't ask, so he stayed for 5 years. So I grew up speaking Vietnamese, and in a home, I don't speak it anymore, so please don't ask. If any of you do, all I know is Nook Bomb. That's fish sauce. It's really horrible for conversation, so. Apparently, I also knew bad words that his brother taught me, not Tum, that I got mad at my dad in church in Vietnamese while there were other Vietnamese populations, because Vietnam is a country with Catholicism, and I was in a Catholic church and cussing at my dad apparently at 2 years old. The things we do. So when refugee resettlement started in Billings, it kind of makes me think of here I am, Lord, do you hear me? But I was floundering. I had done other things. I had done things with the community. I had started a nonprofit. I'd fed children. I'd done all these things, and I just was floundering. And my pastor said to me, Sarah, I know what's next for you. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to keep floundering. Lutheran Family Services needed a volunteer and community engagement coordinator. And boy, howdy, is that what I needed to be doing. And we have welcomed 62 individuals to Billings since June. From Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Venezuela. I will tell you that they are the most joyful, amazing humans who have lived through things that we could never imagine. The trauma that they come with is mixed with an immense need to survive and thrive. Civil engineers, police officer, journalism, construction workers, teachers, professors that had whole lives and dreams in their home country that are destroyed. They are certified victims of violence and torture. They are the most vetted people to ever enter our country. They've had more, they have interviews, iris scans, fingerprinting, 8 federal background checks. And each point of those background checks, if something comes up that isn't them but looks like them, sounds like them, is their name, puts them in the back of the line. Many of our families are from Venezuela. They fled during Chavez's reign. When the government began to fall, it also became, if you worked for the previous government, you are now an enemy of the state. So many fled, leaving their families behind in hopes for reunification. Many of those families reunited 6 years later, 5 years later, in a third country where they were able to enter a refugee support service center and apply for residence or for refugee status, which allows them to be sponsored by a government, like the US government, come in, have some programs around them to support them that lead them to self-sufficiency, help them to be integrated. And what we know from refugee resettlement from a 15-year longitudinal study is people who are refugees or asylees, people who have gone through our court system here in the US and have been granted asylum, that are on their way to citizenship, that get a green card, and then 4 years after that to 10 years after that, they can get their citizenship. So they're doing all the things that they're supposed to make sure they're here legally. All the things that, I might add, my family did not have to do when we came here. And my family did not come here legally. We came as a response to mass famine, all sorts of things. Ellis Island was brought up as a response to the immigration crisis. So we have to do a little bit of thinking about our own selves and the narrative we tell ourselves, that we came here legally and we have this right to be here. But by the grace of God, are we here? And so our families go through tremendous trouble and turmoil to get here. And at this time, they are facing extreme hate. They're facing discrimination. They're facing fear and isolation. But we as Lutheran Family Services, for now, are here to make sure we're welcoming. But I will tell you, we have lost all of our federal funding. Every single resettlement agency in the United States has lost their federal funding. Our organization in Billings is 97% funded by federal dollars. We've lost 60% of our staff. 2 of us remain. I will not leave. And if that means I show up in churches, if that means I show up in town halls, if that means I show up anywhere and explain the need for us to be here and to support these families, I will. So today I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for you to get engaged, to sign up to learn more, to come to a talk about who refugees are, who they aren't, and why they are not a threat to us. But in 15 years, that longitudinal study I didn't get quite finished, $123.4 billion to the positive of our US economy. They are job creators. They are money generators. They are lovers. They are educators. They are educated. Toom, who lived in my home, went on to be on the team who created the Pentium chip. The Pentium chip. He got his brother educated. He became a professor at George Washington University. He brought the rest of his family over. These are not people who sit idly by. They are people who lived through the worst and made the best of it, and have come out the other end with a deep appreciation for our country, for its values, and for you. So please join me. Sorry, I'm letting the Lord speak go through me, so I'm getting a little emotional, to keep our families safe, engaged, and protected through these turbulent times. But you can also help by donating some of the home goods that they need: toilet paper, Kleenex, toothpaste. But thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share my true passion and love for the stranger among us. We are all called to this. Here I am, Lord. Here you are.